Welcome to my tutorial channel. This is going to be a channel dedicated to sewing and making costumes and outfits and just some really fun stuff. I am going to be making different outfits throughout the year, and I figured I would record them and put them out into the universe to help whoever else wanted to learn how to make them. So this is a channel dedicated to that pursuit. So my first dress is going to be a flapper dress. My roommates and I are planning a Gatsby party that is going to be a ton of fun, so I wanted to create my own original dress. Here's an illustration of that dress and what I am intending to make. The main body of the dress is going to be pretty simple as a slip dress, but it'll have an asymmetrical hem with double length fringe hanging from it, and an ombre effect down at the bottom bleeding up into the dress, and some gem rhinestoning at the top. And then we're going to make a headband with some feathers to finish off the ensemble. The first thing I want to do is look at what materials we're going to need. So here are all the materials that I'm going to need to make this flapper dress. So we have the lace here. This is going to be the under layer, this brown fabric that I have. And then I bought long fringe and a shorter fringe to go over it just to add a little bit of volume and really make it swing. Then I have a black crop top that I absolutely love and I think will be a great pattern starting piece for this. I just have some measuring tape, pins, a few pens and pencils to help me out with making this pattern, my scissors, and a ruler. So let's get started. Whenever you're taking your measurements, you should always have somebody help you do it. I did mine on my own, but you should really have a friend help you. So when I took my measurements for my neckline, I took them from where the shoulder is going to be on the dress, and I just measured down right to the center chest where I want it to be. On me it was 13 inches. On you it might be longer or shorter depending on how deep you want your neck to be. For my side seam, I measured down the side. Again, this would be much easier if you had a friend. I ended up just hiding it under my arm so that when I bent down it wouldn't lengthen or shorten on me. But what you're going to want to do is just take the measurement from the right where the underarm is, lean down, figure out where that's at, and for me it was 31 inches, so I added 2 just for safety's sake that I'll explain later for 33 inches. As you can see here, I have laid out a cutting board. I absolutely love my cutting board because it really protects any surfaces underneath it, so I can cut and pin and not worry about ruining our dining room table, at which point I'm sure my roommates would kill me. So getting a cutting board or having a safe surface to cut on is a really important thing to have. So my intention with this dress is to cut it on the bias, and a lot of you are probably wondering, what is the bias? Well, dresses in the early 1900s, a lot of them were cut on the bias because it really allows for more freedom of movement. It's more of a looser weave when it's on the bias, and so it really just allows for those cute little slip dresses. So when you have your fabric laid out on the table, you have along this edge, you can see there's little holes. This is called your selvage edge. This is along the length grain. So when you have that laid out, typically patterns are cut along the length grain. On the warp grain of the fabric, which means they're on the straight grain, the other grain is called the weft. So then the bias is if you were to take your fabric and fold it so that you end up with this cute little triangle where the selvage then ends up. If you have the line here and then a line here, it's perpendicular to itself. This grain along it that's at a 45-degree angle is called your bias grain. So it's pretty much the diagonal grain of the fabric, and that is what I'm intending to use to cut out this dress, to just allow it to be a little bit more looser, flowy, and really be a traditional slip dress. Alright, so what I've done is I've taken the fabric and folded it in half along here, and so you still have your selvage edges that are together over here, so that my fabric, when I put it on the bias, I will be able to really easily find the bias, and then on top of that I need a front and a back to my dress, and I don't really want to cut them separately. It's more work, it's more time. You can do that, but sometimes your accuracy might be sacrificed if you're doing a home pattern like this. If you have paper that you're making your pattern with, then you can match them up before you cut it out of your fabric and make sure that everything is perfect. I'm trying to keep this a little bit more simple than going to dot paper patterns, so this is how I have chosen to do it. So what I'm going to do is take this selvage edge over here and just match it up along my folded edge. And I'm going to pin it in place so that it doesn't wander around on me, because this fabric is a little slick and it keeps sliding on me. So I'm just going to take a few pins and pin it in place along this edge to the corner, and then also along this edge. So when you're first starting out with sewing, this fabric is a little bit slick. The fabrics that are a little bit more slimy, like satin and charmeuse, can be really hard for beginner sewers to sew. So if you're not really comfortable with fabrics, I would suggest starting with a broadcloth or more of a cotton blend fabric, because they're going to be easier for you to lay out on the table and really be able to work with. Slimier fabrics like satin are just going to move around while you're pinning, they move while you're cutting, they move while you're sewing, and so you really have to be on top of it. And if you don't have a lot of sewing experience, it will drive you crazy. Trust me, I've been there, and it just really makes you want to kind of slam your head against the wall. It's not fun. So now that I've got my piece folded, you can see I have the bias running along this corner right here. There you have it. Those are the first few steps on making this dress. How to lay out the bias, what the bias is, and the materials that you're going to need. So go out, get shopping, and I'll be back next week on how to make the pattern and start cutting this thing out. See you guys next time. In the jungle, a mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. In the jungle, a quiet jungle, the lion sleeps tonight.